Yeah. Just getting the chair for that. Sorry. Good to see you.
All right, the time is now 7. I call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Bittner,
Here.
Mr. Lunder,
Here.
Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Moore, here, Mr. Shaboo,
Here.
Mr. Morris,
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
All right, we're gonna go to approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Any questions, corrections? I will entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Shaboo. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore, aye, Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Morris.
Aye. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any correspondence before council?
I have no correspondence tonight, Mr. President.
Any member of council have any correspondence?
I received some correspondence from Mrs. Miller, who lives at 7597 Salida Road.
We can't hear you.
Okay, I'll speak up. Received some correspondence from Mrs. Miller at 7597 Salida Road. She expressed some concern about the proposed changes to some of the businesses on Andrews Road, creating more traffic and possibly needing a traffic light at Salida and Andrews. Also concerns about the speed of traffic on Salida Road and was wondering if that could be monitored a little bit better. I received a call from a gentleman on Primrose Drive. He had a item sitting out by his front door and a garbage picker came up to the front door and was going to take it and he caught them. I asked him to report that to the police because that is not something that they should be doing. And then I got an anonymous call from somebody who has concerns about the collection dumpsters at Giant Eagle getting over, they're overflowing and starting to look unsightly again.
Any other members? No. All right, we're gonna move on to administrative and department head reports. Mayor Yuba.
Good evening, Mr. Bittner, members of council, the public here this evening. We had interviews a couple weekends ago. We're going to add 2 additional full-time officers. We had 5 candidates, all of those were internal. They're all part-time for us right now. We will be adding the 2 additional full-time officers somewhere around May 1st then. The fire department report for March. For March, there were a total of 86 calls for service. 15 of those were fire service calls. 71 of those were rescue EMS calls. Of the 71 calls, 15 calls were for invalid assist, 2 calls for an overdose requiring Narcan. Service anniversaries in March, Lieutenant Tony Conti, in March, 33 years with us. For the first quarter of 2022, there were a total of 339 calls for service. Call breakdown, 42 fire service calls, 297 rescue EMS calls. Of the 297 calls, 80 calls for invalid assist, and 6 calls for an overdose requiring Narcan. As far as Mrs. Bartone's report, there is a SALT resolution on the agenda tonight, and this is due back to the Ohio Department of Transportation by the end of March, if that can be an emergency tonight. There's also an insurance expenditure. This is due at the beginning of April, and this has been included in the current budget. Council should have the amended PUD, the overlay zoning version. The codified ordinance, those have been updated and distributed. That's also on the agenda tonight. If council could pass that as an emergency also. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Law Director, Mr. Lyons.
The President, the SALT resolution is due by April 29th. Other than that, no.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the administration? All right, hearing none, we're going to go to board and committee commission reports. We'll start with Parks and Recs.
Yes, Mr. Vice President, Parks and Rec met on March 23rd, 2022. We started at 6 p.m. and present was Samantha Wolf, our chairperson. Committee members Tim Cavelli, Renee Schaefer, myself as a council representative, Jennifer J. Kosh, and Carol Stefanski. Also present was Rob Johnson and Kevin Bittner and Mayor Eva. The meeting started at 6 p.m. Reports were given by myself and Mayor Eva. The chairperson also gave her report, as I mentioned, of the volunteer availability sheet for people to fill out, indicating their availability to volunteer for events. There was a recap of the events for 2022. There was a lengthy discussion concerning the table for seniors citizens information that they intend to have at the event. There was a discussion on possibly offering various children's activities during the summer. Some of the items mentioned were wiffle balls, kickball, kite flying, amongst others. There was also a brief discussion on investigating a movie night. We also discussed getting a mural painted on the side of the service garage or fence. The work would be done by volunteers. We're looking into that. We also discussed suspending the April meeting because there's no important business at this point that we have to deal with. The vote was taken and it passed. The next meeting will be on May 25th. And the meeting ended at 6:35. All
right. Planning and zoning met Monday, April 4th.
Yes, the start time was 6 p.m. In attendance was Suzanne Cason, Mike Sweeney, Al Busher, Brent Moore, myself, and Dave Eva, Jim Lunder, Michelle Moore, Kevin Bittner, Rob Johnson, Paul Morris, and several residents. The first item that we discussed was Mario's Bar presented a request for a 40 by 28 pavilion to be added to his business. The commission explained to them that there was only 15 feet from the property line and the zoning requirement was 30 feet. They requested of them to resubmit their request at the commission's next meeting showing this change and also showing his drawing the required amount of parking space. The commission then discussed the option of an overlay or rezoning of the properties included in the proposed PUD ordinance. This PUD overlay district gives property owners the ability to developing according to the regulations, which while also retaining the base zoning district designation. The commission agreed to forward to the next council meeting this addendum. Number 3, the commission received the proposal of MS Properties concerning a Dollar General store and apartments to be constructed at the property located at 5758 Andrews Road, the former St. Andrew's Church. The commission asked MS Properties to provide an environmental impact assessment to be available to us by our next meeting for our future consideration. The meeting ended at 7:05. Next meeting will be May 2nd. The zoning committee for several reasons was canceled then.
All right, so zoning is canceled. Ordinance committee?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, the ordinance committee did not meet. We were here, we were missing a member, and it was due to unforeseen circumstances.
Okay.
And we'll try to reschedule that again.
Is there any other meetings that we missed? No. All right, at this time at 7:09, we're going to open this portion up to the public. If you wish to speak, please step up to the lectern, state your name, address, so we can record it. Please keep it to a minimum. We do have a 10-minute time frame. Maximum, I apologize, not minimum.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Jennifer Simmons. I live at 7858 Richwood Drive here in Mentor on the Lake. I have some concerns I'd like to address with respect to the proposed Dollar General and apartments over here at the end of Driftwood and Andrews Road. First of all, I'd like to know why the leadership of Mentor on the Lake would even consider adding another dollar store to the area, as I'm sure my fellow Mentor on the Lakers can agree, that's probably the last thing that we need added to our city. Secondly, where is the foresight of leadership here in Mentor on the Lake? We have a jewel right here called Lake Erie. We should be utilizing the properties that are up for sale to provide entertainment, fine dining, recreation, anything that would draw in young families and people of a certain age like myself, whose children are older, that would prefer to stick around the area and recreate here and spend more money here in Mentor on the Lake. So as a taxpayer, as a homeowner since 2013, I would plead with the council and the mayor to please be a little bit more forward thinking in your leadership. And let's not live up to the status quo as other cities. Let's be a little bit more forward thinking, a little more progressive thinking, and add some real value here to Mentor on the Lake. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Scarnati, live at 7545 Slider Road. I'm here also to address the potential of Dollar General in addition to some comments on the PUD.
Excuse me, Mr. Scarletti, would you please spell your last name? for me?
Yes, Scarnati is Scarnati. Okay, and then, so, I agree with the prior residents' comments. My opening was going to be another Dollar General when we have a Dollar Tree down the street. We have Mark's, which is considered a discount store. We also have a new one that opened up, Susie's Surplus. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I heard it's a scratch and dent place. So, within 300 to 400 yards of Susie's, I don't think we need another discount retailer. Not sure what the motivation of this developer is to have retail on the front and residential, considerable residential behind. So I'd like to address that. There were discussions within the community that there was going to be connection to Anna's Court, which then would dump out a large residential community onto Salida Road, which opens up to a lot of other concerns that we have as residents of Salida Road. I don't know if that's been fully contemplated. I've heard rumors that it may have been squelched. Maybe you can, who's ever the head of planning, they could address that for me. Is that
It was
connection?
squelched,
It was squelched.
and the drive's not big enough to handle
Okay, well then that cuts out a large part of my comments. So I'm happy to hear that. Again, I'm just concerned, again, I echo the comments of our former speaker in that, you know, we do have a wonderful community and we should try to, you know, develop some more valuable properties. I'd like to speak on the PUD just briefly as well. I'm a little, I didn't know until I walked in the room the extent of the PUD. I understand it just goes to Mario's property to the corner and basically encompass Jaeger's property. I'm not sure what the depth of it is. Listen, I'm all for development, but you know, to give a developer the widespread latitude that's currently written in the PUD, I think needs further consideration. They are basically allowed to put whatever they want in from my reading of the PUD. So it gives them like 5 different categories that they can develop, from single family to multifamily to condos to whatever. You know, apartments here concern me. I don't know what the possibility with apartment within 10 years to turn it into a Section 8 property. I know we currently have some. Do we? That's,
Yes, we
we
do.
do.
Some.
We definitely do, and you know, we're concerned from the increased crime rate and other, you know, other factors. There's a lot of valuable properties in this town, and with a very wide swath of the lake here that you know, we would like to keep our community safe and protect ourselves from Section 8 properties, and that's my concern there. So I would just ask people to really dig into this PUD, especially our planning, our zoning, our council. Let's lock these guys up. Let's not give them like free reign to what they want to do. I'm all for development. I like increased taxes, but I don't want a free for all in a PUD district. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Earl Curtis, and I live at 7523 Salida Road. And my concern here, it took a lot of research and homework first to find this information, which is kind of scary to me because as a resident, it should be more readily available. My biggest concern is the PUD. And talking to my neighbors and trying to figure out the best we could as to what's going on with, I believe it's lot 7790, but we're still not 100% sure what area the PUD affects. My concern is, after finally getting a copy of what this thing is, chapter 1255, it's really very, very vague. If I was a developer, I would have a home run with this zone. What this zone is doing, permitted principal uses. You're allowed to have 1 family detached dwellings. You're allowed to have 1 family attached and detached dwellings. You're allowed to have 2 family dwellings. You're allowed to have townhouses. You're allowed to have multi-family dwellings. You're allowed to have model homes. So you're pretty much giving total control to the developer to build whatever they choose. And you say, oh, but they're going to provide a set of plans, and we got to do the plans. Well, the developer is now, when they have total flexibility of what they can build, what they're going to do is go back to the drawing board, and they're going to make the most profit they can on that piece of land. So they will build the cheapest, maximize the most money they can get out of that lot, so that they can fill it with as many people as they can, so they can walk home and get the cash. Meanwhile, we're stuck with a property for the next 15 to 20 years that we have no say anymore because we gave up our rights. And it states very clearly, if you go to page 5 in your ordinance that if you approve, it states approval of plans. When the commission has found that the preliminary plans and other data for the buildings under this section comply with the requirements of this building and zoning code, it shall approve such preliminary plans. It's that black and white. If this very vague, very open-ended, very allow the builder to do what they want, gets to do what they want, you have to approve it. And we, as taxpayers, as members of the community, are gonna look at this thing for 20 years because we have no say. And you guys are gonna go, yeah, but they submitted a beautiful set of plans. Yes, and then you change the zone, and guess what? They slip in a new set of plans, and there's nothing we can do about it. I really believe if we really want to better our town and make it what we all want it to be, a great community for our family and friends, if we want to have a multi-use facility, multi-use, multifaceted type of environment, why don't we continue to have nice shops down below? If they want to have townhouses and condos up above, that's great. This is a common thing that's happening all over the country, where they have coffee shops and meeting places and nice things down below, and then upstairs if you want to have apartments and condos. That's a great thing to have, but nowhere do they mention anything about having retail in here or having anything to do with a business district anymore. And nowhere does it say what combination of things works for our city. It's a combination of things that works for the developer. So my concern to everybody as we all live in this community is please tighten this down. I want to see that developed as much as everybody does. I want to see that gas station done. I want to see beautiful buildings there, but I want to see something that we all love. So please tighten this down so that we're not left on the hook by some developer to put whatever they want laughing to the bank. That's all I ask. Thank you so much.
My name is Tess Turdy. I live at 7373 Salida, and I probably won't be anywhere near me as eloquent, but I voice a lot of the same concerns. And like to me, I'm new resident to Mentor on the Lake, less than 2 years, and the same frustrations in that short period of time. I really feel everyone's pain here. I like change. It can be done really, if it's done really well and well thought out. And I think that's the ultimate concern here. I'm looking on this, and I don't want to pretend that I understand this from a contractual legal point of view, but the minimum development site for the PUD is 2 acres, except there's a minimum acre modification. And my question is, how many acres is the plot in question? So, anyone? No, because there's a different set of criteria for a minimum. If it's under that, then is there a single, was this change brought to you by a single owner of the property? Are there adjacent property owners that will be impacted? Because if I'm understanding this quickly, and I just read it before coming here, there has to be that cohesion amongst the owners of property. My concern is that it is the biggest jewel, is that chunk of property, right, lakefront view. And that should be like that, people should be clawing each other to get a part of that. And I don't think it should be a piecemeal building. Like, I do agree, what brings money to a community is how many residents, if there's a coffee shop and we can, ride our bikes to it, we're gonna sit there and spend our money in Mentor on the Lake. I'm tired of driving up and down Andrews and seeing crap businesses with paper for window coverings, and now wanting to expand more just says, how can we fix this one stretch of property before we just, to me, it seems haphazard when we can't even control what's here now from a visual standpoint. I'm concerned about how are these plans going forward going to be managed, not just for who signs the ink and who gets extra money when they go home, but how will this benefit, how will this increase the quality of life for everyone living in Mentor on the Lake? How many extra people will want to stay here if they come to the park? 2 years from now, there is a full eclipse, a total eclipse it's already gathering buzz, and the path line is right over Mentor on the Lake. Why aren't the people should be coming from all over to enjoy the lakefront we have one little tiny piece of it as a community access. And I consider myself really fortunate to have a property on Salida. This means a lot to me as a member of the community. I don't want to work against you. I want to, let's make change, but let's make it the right way. And I'm not convinced that I understand this well enough to say I'm behind you guys. So if there is a way to maybe simplify this from a point-by-point process, what this means for us as members of the community, I think that would relieve fears. Like, people are angry because we're scared. We don't want our properties diminished in any way. And we're facing obstacles. You guys are facing obstacles, and we want to know that some of the present obstacles are being handled before we create more. So I'm willing to help out. Like, if we lose, you lose. So I want to make it right, but I just don't know that I feel confident that I have the details to know that. I feel blind going into it, and I do think I need more information in order to really stand behind this. I think that's about all I've said.
Hello, I am Juanita Miller, 7597 Salida. I've lived there for 49 years. I say ditto to all my past residents that have been up here and all of their concerns. Another one of my concerns has any type of traffic study been done if we develop apartments on that corner or condos? Salida Road has been used as a thoroughfare from anyone coming from the west to the east. You took down our traffic light. Why was that taken down? Anybody answer me?
I can tell you after the meeting, this is open to the public. There's no back and forth here.
Okay.
I would be willing, whoever would like to stay after the meeting, I could show you both proposals and we could go through it, and I'm happy to stay and answer any of your questions after the meeting.
Okay, so we just need to state our concerns, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the traffic on Salida has increased, and we understand that development has to happen, but we're also concerned with increased traffic. Increased traffic, I'm glad you stated that Anna Court is not going to be open because we were concerned about that. But we literally take our lives in our hands and we go up to our mailboxes now. I know we don't have policemen that can patrol our street 24/7, but I'm telling you, in the morning when people are going to work, in the evening when people are coming home, we need to have some type of presence there, whether it's one of those speed things that could possibly slow people down. But I have literally in the summer been up front trying to weed my somewhat of a garden and yelled at cars, slow down, slow down. I mean, they fly past there. And that is a major concern. Any development we do on Andrews, you know, is going to filter down Salida. So that's one of our main concerns. Another concern I'll bring up really quickly is your website. It is very difficult for the normal person to try to find information on that website. I had to have the agenda emailed to me. That agenda was not posted this morning. The PUD requirements, like they said, we had just gotten those sent to us. We can't read your website. We need to have more open information to the community so that we can work with you, that we know what's going on, that we know what you want to propose, and that if we can help in any way, we will. We won't always stand there and bitch and complain about it. But anyways, if we can help out, we'll help out. We've all been around long enough, and we love our community. You've got to admit, this is a really unique area. And I agree with everyone else that jewel of a lake, we need to make the best of it. Why do we need more apartments here? If we have people coming in to buy, that's another story. We don't need any more renters. And commercial property, yes. Dollar General, we got a Dollar General in that corner, a Dollar General down there. Just because they come to the city, do we automatically have to have a Dollar General? I mean, I'm sorry. We need to look into things more. And we're willing to work with you. But you got to work with that website. I'm telling you that right now. Thank you.
Hello, Dave Rafleski, 5470 Woodside. Two comments, one on the Dollar General first. You would not be doing your duty if you have not taken a look at Shaker Square Alliance, who's approached and developed a set of rules to limit dollar stores in their area, because they have found that dollar stores create a negative influence on the production. You would also not be doing your diligence if you did not take a look at Broadview Heights, who has also had similar ordinances. You should look into that before you come to a decision, otherwise you're not doing your diligence. Regarding the PUD area, I have a question, a problem, but a suggestion. Certainly there's going to be an issue with traffic, and if we look at the intersection of Lakeshore and Andrews, predominantly the traffic goes south and it goes east. A traffic light would be the worst solution. That would just slow down the two corners, and you should really investigate, as I did, a modern roundabout. And the Ohio Department of Transportation has spent a lot of money to develop those in a modern way. It'd be very efficient to transmit mostly right turning traffic coming up Andrews, and mostly southern facing traffic going down, which doesn't need a traffic light, doesn't back up more traffic, and would stop blocking driveways. So if we add traffic to that area, the traffic light would be the worst solution. So there's a problem, there's a suggestion, that's all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Virginia Wong. I'm at 7573 Salida. I'm actually here on behalf of one of my neighbors who's out of town today and cannot be here. And this is Nanette Nozen, N-U-R-Z-Y-N. She's at 7708 Twilight on one of the 3 homes that faces the lake next to the park. Dear Mentor on the Lake Council, I wanted to have my voice heard at this meeting, and since I will be out of town, my neighbor has kindly offered to express my opinion and concerns. I'm a homeowner of 30 years as of this month at the address of 7708 Twilight Drive, and I love our community. On the subject matter of potential townhouse or PUD development at the intersection of Andrews, Twilight, Lakeshore, I'm strongly opposed to such development. It does not align with the existing home structures in our community. I believe it would be an eyesore and not an enhancement to our area. It does not reflect the ambience of Mentor on Lake. In addition, that intersection is high traffic, and that corner is notorious for drivers not stopping northbound on Andrews Road and westbound on Lakeshore. Adding an additional cluster of housing will only enhance this problem. I would also like to address and request the do not enter sign be restored westbound on Twilight where Spring Drive intersects. This is a dead-end street that can fit 1.5 cars on the roadway. With 3 residential driveways, there's absolutely no need for drivers to be there unless they are going to one of our homes. It is a constant problem with our driveways blocked, loud music, running cars. While people attempt to use this portion for sightseeing, the situation escalates each year. While I understand the view is tempting, there's a wonderful park adjacent with ample parking for those to walk and sightsee. There used to be a sign there many years ago, which blew away in a significant storm. The other problem our neighborhood has is drivers on Chagrin, north of Salida, cutting through to avoid the intersection at Salida and Andrews. And drivers continually drive at high rates of speed, well over the posted 15 miles per hour, do not stop at the stop sign at Chagrin and Twilight, and cut the corner coming down Twilight. This is a highly walked street with kids and residents, and we would like to see this addressed. One of the suggestions and ideas is to install speed bumps on Chagrin to force the traffic to slow down and reduce the cut through traffic. I appreciate my voice being heard and would like to follow up on some of these issues. Warm regards, Nina Merson. Thank you.
It's my turn. I'm Bill Cleveland. I live 7607 Salida Road. Mr. Mayor and Council, thanks for having this venue for people to express their opinions. I would point out to you that there is significant precedent, mostly of the negative kind, for the issues that we're addressing tonight. One of them is the condo development they called Monterey Bay. It's a nice development and it's certainly better than having Section 8 housing. However, it did bring a lot of extra traffic on Salida Road. But at least those are residents, they own and they pay taxes, so it's not all bad. And we were able now, thanks to our ex-mayor, John Crocker, who I think actually has passed away. He made it real easy for Malcolm Mackey and Dawson, those people to come in and put the condos. The only concession we got via town meetings like this was to get it from 8 per unit down to 6. But most of the residents of Salida Road were not happy at the time. And probably are still not real happy now. That was supposedly a non-developable wetlands. And before that happened, it was interesting. The new storm drain was going in along Salida Road just before the condo situation. And I asked John face to face in his little office up here, said, why is it that the storm drain is being continued at a 4-foot diameter past that 30 acres, and then it goes down to 2 feet? Why doesn't it go to 2 feet? Because there was extra tens of thousands of dollars required to keep it at 4 feet. Are we talking about developing that 30 acres of woods? Oh, no, that would never happen. Wetlands, but you know what it did? It's just interesting that the city council approved keeping that 4 feet. And guess what? When it was time for the condo development, the storm drain was big enough. What a coincidence, right? Now, here's the deal. The deal is very few people that live in the town that pay taxes want to see more apartments of any kind, particularly low income or federal or otherwise subsidized apartments. As of the last publication, I should say, by the school board for better, 52% of the children in school live with one parent or less. Really? What happened to the nuclear family? And a huge percentage of those children lived in low-cost housing. The proportion is very obvious. The low-cost housing, other than say the apartments on the corner, which is older people, bring in families or partial families generally that have a lot of kids. Now, my school taxes, property taxes, which is mainly a school tax, are currently over $1,000 a month. But I don't have any kids in school. Now, we all know that the Supreme Court has twice ruled it illegal to base school taxes on property value. But here we are still doing it. Isn't that interesting how our system works? So I want to say that for me and my family, we oppose any kind of new rental properties in Mentor on the Lake. Any kind at all, be it behind the third dollar store, which would be in Mentor on the Lake, because there's $2 stores over by Marks. Then there's another one by Corner Road. How many do we really need? Yeah, we like competition, but I think we have adequate competition in that category. So whether it's the Jaeger property along over to Mario's, whether it's behind St. Andrew's Church, we don't need more apartments. And anybody that doesn't quite understand what I'm saying, just let me know. I'll try to be more clear. I think I've made my point. Thank you for your time.
Any other members of?
One more, I guess. Scott Spence, 5412 Woodside Road. One thing about education, free and reduced lunches is an indication of poverty within a given community. So a free and reduced lunches increase, then you know the poverty rate is also increasing along with that.
I agree with the traffic pattern issues that that we have down here. We have traffic pattern now and more residents would also have traffic pattern, add to that. We talked earlier, you mentioned earlier that we've taken 2 police departments officers part-time and now made them full-time. How many additional safety people will be needed if we have an apartment building or some such development over there? I had heard that it's gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 units. I'm guessing there's gonna be 3 people per unit, so we've got a couple of hundred people. We can't handle that with our existing public safety force with fire, emergency, as well as police departments. Transparency, yes, that is an issue. And lack of transparency will continue to rear its head. Having worked in the medical field, a very important aspect of medical care. I'm an audiologist, worked for years, also in education, and worked in the education department. So I can speak directly from a professional standpoint, from work standpoint, regarding this. Has to do with something called quality of life. One of my colleagues in the back talked about what kind of quality of life are we looking for in the neighborhood? What kind of quality of life do you want? What kind of quality of life do we want to have for others that may use the area? And that's very important to do. And that has to do, in my opinion, with what's our long-range plan for development of the neighborhood? And how could we handle that? And how can we do that in a way that's beneficial for all parties involved, with people coming in, as well as the people that are here. And lastly, economic development does not revolve itself around discount stores, no matter what that is. We want to increase our economic base and development of the community. It's not going to come through dollar stores. Thank you very much for your time, Jeff.
My name's Jeff Schick. I'm at 7533 Salida. And this is a point of process. First, let me compliment really wonderful comments from your citizens about what they think about our community today, and what they'd like it to be tomorrow. I'd like to echo the issue of transparency. It is really hard to get information sometimes. Even when we're late at getting information, it should be even easier. Website, true. They're not simple. Well, I think we could do better. I don't know that I saw on the website anywhere, is there a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan for this city with regard to balance in quality of life for residents, quality of life for commerce, traffic patterns, all of those things that we heard about this evening? Now, maybe I missed it, but I'm not sure. On the point of process, gosh, wonderful things that we heard this evening. Joyce, were you required to write everything we said, or is this recorded? It is recorded. Because I was going to ask everyone to come back up and do it slowly. Because without a doubt, there are very significant things in the hearts and minds and caring of the people behind me. And your responsibilities are to help hear those things, articulate those things to the administration, so that we can have a government action on those 2 properties. The government action is going to be needed. Let's hope it's reflecting of what a part of your community has said tonight. Not all of your community, but a part of your community. And Joyce, how do we get a copy of the tape?
It is recorded, and you will probably contact City Hall tomorrow how to get into the recording.
On the website? Don't say that.
Well, yeah, it should be on the website. It should be on the website.
It should be on the website, but I'm saying don't do that now because I have no trouble.
2022.
Last meeting. There is something on YouTube.
This meeting is on YouTube? You're all going to be stars. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I didn't hear the answer. How do we get a copy of the tape so that I can really understand what our citizens said?
That would have to be,
Public record.
it's a public record.
Available.
Public record.
At a minimum, if I might, at a minimum. you would have access to come in.
Mhm.
At a minimum.
Or make a copy?
Woman, copy,
No, my understanding is Joyce making this meeting herself. Also my understanding that this is being taped also. from YouTube.
Yes.
So we could.
Mhm.
Well, the YouTube, just to chime in, the YouTube quality is, it's cannot distinguish
Okay.
what is being said.
But if somebody would
Yeah.
wanna,
There's a
Is
lot
that-
of
is that the
background
camera
noise,
there?
very
So we're on
hard
that?
to get in.
This camera.
in this case,
That'd be cool. Yeah, that, I mean, they were great things. I know you heard them.
but just going further, the tape that Joyce had, in order to, is a public record. And if somebody asks us, you know, well, how, don't make a tape. They don't make a copy. I don't quite know what our level of technology is and how quick it'll be.
Well, let's
But I
hope
mean, but it's a
before
public
any next
record,
decisions.
but it's a public record. that everybody-
Well, they would be available before the next council meeting.
Well, typically what happens is that Joyce, will listen to the tape that she has, and she'll then do lengthy minutes, okay, that reflect not word for word what people said. You know, some slightly condensed version.
Well, they also make very inexpensive software programs, I don't mean to interrupt, I apologize for that, that are what they call text to speech, and they've made significant improvements. In years past, you had to train the computer, if you will, to recognize your voice in order to do this. You're a lawyer, you know, man, you used,
Well, I know that.
you use Dragon and all this kind of
I
stuff.
know people are using Otter.
Right, so, you know, there are things that are much more amenable to, you know, those of us like myself that have braille on and whatnot.
But Otter,
So,
you know, that does text to speech, it contemporaneously while it's doing it, has a number of, well, you know, mistakes.
right,
And it has
absolutely.
to be gone over and make sure it's correct. So,
Right, and that's where Joyce can come in and other
well, what her,
tech.
I think I had violated what the mayor said. in terms of-
Interchange,
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean, but yes, you're entitled to a copy of the tape.
And I instigated that, not on purpose, but.
No, 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 I know.
Not regretting that I did, because it's,
unintentionally on purpose, right? You just get, you go.
well, the impact is the same. The people behind here want to know.
But you're welcome to a copy of the tape.
Correct.
It's not the minutes, okay, the minutes
That's different.
are what Joyce types up that are the
And they-
official record.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
this is something that's kept in the ordinary course of business. So this meeting is being recorded by
And
Joyce.
they'll
You can-
reflect it.
You could have a copy, okay?
Right. So then last thing that I was concerned about, and I know you offered to stay after and use it anyway,
Yes.
but before that happens and they adjourn, in case some of these people want to leave, they may not know, are we going to be able to talk about impact studies, both ongoing now, plans going on for the planning commission, the kinds of things, if some of these people have to go, we're going to ask those questions of you, I don't want to have them all chase us back. Can you reflect from the planning commission or from the mayor's office, what is the usual customary process from now, from the PUD?
What's on second reading? I just a follow up. I mean, I'd like a clarification for council. Second reading to me refers that it's already gone through zoning and was approved. It's come in front of the council once and it's been approved, and this is second reading. I don't know, maybe just clarify the process, like Jeff said.
The normal process would be three readings. The first reading was before planning and zoning met to look at the overlay. The overlay would allow the property to remain as commercial business and would not have to be rezoned to residential. The reason the overlay was looked at and, in my opinion, approved by planning and zoning was if for some reason that developer, if council rezoned the property to residential, if the developer decided, I'm gonna back out of this, then council would have to go through the whole process again to rezone that to business district. With the overlay, just like it says, it's zone business. On top of it, the overlay would be the residential, which is in the PUD. That's how.
Then the process of all the approval of this.
Just the. Okay,
Go ahead.
but it's on second reading, that means the council notifying the community that this is up for consideration, this particular zoning change. There's still gonna be a public hearing on this, where people can come and say the same thing all over again, okay? You know, they have.
We'll play the tape.
Good, I was thinking that, but I wasn't gonna say that, okay, but there'll be a public hearing on this zoning change, if that zoning change with this PUD overlay district does get approved. Okay, then developments where the PUD applies would then be allowed, provided, it meets the requirements of that particular ordinance. In terms of coming to an agreement with the city in terms of what would be an acceptable project under the PUD. Now, just as part of the PUD, and this PUD ordinance was, as I understand it, was modeled after Willoughby, which I think everybody thinks probably is going to bring down into development. It indicates in terms of the review required is that no permit shall be issued in the lakefront land unit development district. File with the commission preliminary plans and other data as mentioned. Such plans and data shall be approved if the commission finds that such plans provide for an integrated and harmonious design of buildings, appropriate entrances to suites, adequate and properly arranged facilities for traffic circulation, provisions for primary access, landscaping and screening and planning, and public water, sewer, stormwater drainage, and other facilities as may be necessary or appropriate to prevent the discouragement of proper development or use of properties surrounding or in the vicinity of the lakefront land unit development. I believe, and I don't need to speak to council, that the PUD was being proposed, okay, to more effectively control what goes in a particular place rather than what can happen down there. Now, if there is a commercial project that needs, what's in the commercial district, I think that's on C1, is on the C1 side. Any of those buildings that are listed in there, or any of those uses can go in without council having to approve. So this hopefully gives council and the administration more control over development in this area. And I believe that's what, and I know, that was the purpose of taking a look at the plan here to develop. They have to meet all the goals. Now, should those goals or those criteria be increased? Public input,
Well, it's a must.
right. No, I'm saying that. So anyway, once that's done, if it is ever done, if it's voted down, well, then you don't have a PUD. So if it's approved, that particular zoning is approved. At that point in time, then the developer then has to come in front of the planning commission, the administration, to seek approval of what their plan is. And once again, that's an open process where people can give input in terms of what they think is appropriate. Can traffic studies be part of that? I would think so. Maybe it's a good idea to put in traffic studies if planning commission deems it necessary. You don't need a traffic study for every,
All right, I'm gonna interject at this point, we're up past the 10 minutes. I want to kind of move this along.
Thank you.
If you guys would like, the mayor had said, we'll stay after and answer as many questions as you can. We got to get through our legislation. You're more than welcome to stay after.
I'd like one further follow-up, if I could. David Scarnati, Salida Road. mean, a lot of people have expressed their opinion about multifamily. Almost every negative comment from almost every person that spoke in this community. And so how do we affect a change to this PUD that strikes the ability for this property to have multifamily? How do we affect the change? Strike it out of the document. That's what I'm talking about.
That's his 10 minutes, not mine. But it's a really great question. Where is the status of the PUD and can it be altered from this day forward, or is it done?
So as of right now, we have it's in legislation that's going to be brought forth tonight. It is currently referred to the zoning committee. Okay. So depending on what happens tonight, they can bring it out of the zoning committee back to council. At which point, depending on what their recommendation is going to be, we change it, we keep it. Either way, it's going to go to third reading because this is going to be a public hearing. We will be setting the public hearing meeting, which is where you would really come to express your concerns about it. That is the third and final reading of it as well. At that point, it could be even referred back to committee if council so decides, or it could be voted on that night.
I think it should be referred back to, I mean, the
It's-
overwhelming response from the community should be referred back to. That's my.
Who is the developer? Thank you. Sellers.
I don't know that we're allowed
I
to.
know who owns one property. but
What happened to transparency?
Yes.
But they own
all.
So right now, we have to get through our legislation.
I'm guessing it's about
People answer all.
Okay.
We can answer questions after, we will talk to you.
They don't say exactly that.
But right now, we have to get through our legislation. So I'm gonna ask if there's any more.
We're less concerned about your bureaucrat legislation than we are what you're doing to our community. So what we really want to know is it too late to affect change? Who's in charge of making those changes or not? And when are we gonna know? Well, I don't feel we're getting anywhere moving towards closure on this. A lot of talking, yeah, we let all you guys talk. Now we're gonna go off and do what we want to do. Who's in charge of the zoning thing?
All right, Mr. Lyons.
Council, council, can name, if it gets put back on the agenda right now. Council votes tonight. Put it back.
Put what back on?
The actual ordinance itself that's currently listed. in
The one
agenda.
that Mr.
Yeah.
Karas
Pardon me?
quote, the one that Mr. Karas quoted earlier.
Yeah.
It said all these things, including multifamily, the developer can
It
choose.
currently has the language multi-family.
And is that been
Yeah.
approved by council?
No, it has.
No,
Has it been approved by the zoning committee? So it's not too late.
I thought we were already gone through the zoning committee.
Well, zoning committee or planning?
Planning.
Planning.
Going to planning, okay.
They will-
Zoning Committee did not, yeah.
Planning needs to go back to planning, back to stuff.
It's currently was referred by council to the zoning committee. Council did take back that. You know, one of their comments. I don't know whether, but Mrs. Bittner has indicated that it's not going to be voted on tonight one way or another. It's going to go in the very least to the next council meeting. And it can't be voted on because there has to be a public hearing. After, I mean, can it be changed? The answer is yes. If any member of council makes a motion to amend it to strike multi-family. Give a second, and it's approved by 43 votes, then that legislation can be amended to take over. So everything can be changed until it's passed.
I'm Dan Welker from 5884 Thunderbird. I just want to make a couple quick comments, particularly with Jeff Schiff mentioned. I mean, I think the city really should have a group of residents along with council people. There should be a 10, 20-year plan out there. We've got different land around the city that's been empty for many years. There should have been something structured so we don't have to make a quick decision. Quick decisions never end up good. Case in point, I grew up here. I remember the days, the dance hall, things that were, and then on the lake, it was like a little beachfront community, you had a tender beach park. beautiful beaches. The lake levels rose, city of Mentor through Armorston along the shoreline killed it for the rest of its life. There would never be a beach there again, as long as they have structured the way they have there. And that was the draw to Mentor Lake. I mean, people refer to Mentor Lake as a jewel. I don't think of it as a jewel. I think of it as a flower, and it's a delicate flower. It has to be cultivated, it has to be nurtured, or it's gonna die. And we need to make sure we keep this the community a nice beachfront community. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of cities around this country that would give their left arm to have lakefront access that we have. Here we are, you can't get to the beach at Overlook Park anymore. You can't get to a beach at Mentor Beach Park anymore. It's just been, again, it was quick decisions that resulted in that happening. So we need to have a plan, and the community needs to be involved, and it should look out 10, 20, 30 years where we're going. I know it was about 18 years ago, there was a lakefront development group that had a whole plan for that area around the water plant. Harry Allen from Great Lakes Power was part of that. That should have been kind of incorporated as some kind of city plan. Look, I mean, the economy went bad in 2008, so there was no federal money, so that all fell apart. But if we were looking at these things and not making quick knee-jerk decisions because a developer wants to do something quickly, we could have things in place that would fit together and make the needs of the community a good, nice little community that should be a flower to make it grow. Thank you.
My comments are mostly.
State your name and your address, please.
Ralph Boomer, 5995 Cedarwood, Maryland. I just want all of you to know that everybody here, except Mr. Lyons, all live within a quarter of a mile of said properties. They love this city more than you all know. And these aren't just fly-by ideas. They put a lot of time and effort into everything they do. Their heart is in the right place. And they are going to do the very best for you they can. It's not something that they're trying to sneak through or get past, or people really care. And they all live, like I said, it's gonna affect them probably more than the guy that lives on Thunderbird or anywhere else.
Listen, if they wanna affect our change, then listen to our comments and act accordingly. Okay, you have an overwhelming room that are expressing opinion. We get it, they're dedicated service, but I don't be lectured by you, sir. So address the council and not the gallery. Please, thank you. Thank you. Address the council and not the gallery. Thank you.
All right. No other comments? Anybody online? All right, hearing none, we're going to close this portion of the open to the public at 8:01. And we are going to go ahead with legislation before council. First up, we have resolution number 2022 R-10. Please read it by its title.
Resolution number 2022-R-10. A resolution authorizing the administrative director to participate in an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the purchase of sodium chloride rock salt for the 2022-2023 winter season and declaring an emergency.
All right, this is on first reading. Do you have a motion? This is the one that will be passed by the 29th. Mrs. Bertone asked if we could pass this tonight.
I'll make a motion for suspension. What this is for our rock salt, we used to have to buy it independently with the city. With this resolution, it allows us to join the state bid so that we get a better rate because we're purchasing with other communities and buying at a larger volume. So I am in support of suspending the rules and looking at this on first reading so that we can get the paperwork in and be included in that program to get a better rate on that for the residents.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion made by Mrs. Moore, second by Mr. Munder for suspension. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mrs. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
So made.
Seconded.
All right, Mr. Wonder. Roll call.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mrs. Moore? Aye. Mr. Shaboo?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
All right, that resolution passes. Now we're gonna go on to ordinance number 2022-0-04. This is our second reading. Please reread it by its title.
Ordinance number 2022-0-04, second reading. Opting out of House Bill 172 and reaffirming the ban on discharging, igniting, or exploding fireworks in the city of Minnetonka Lake as set forth in chapter 672 of the codified ordinances of the city of Minnetonka Lake and declaring an emergency.
All right, this ordinance, just, we're gonna have a little bit of discussion here. I did some research on it myself, and to my understanding, with most of council, you guys wish to ban the use of fireworks, correct? If we currently leave the ordinance in place that we have, it will actually allow fireworks to be used because the Ohio revised codes are actually changing. So in order to reflect this, I got with Mr. Lyons and we went ahead and made the changes that we would need to put into this to top block. So you guys should have all received a copy of the changes that he is proposing. So I will take a motion to amend this as he presented to us for not allowed.
I just got that right before the meeting, so I
Yeah.
haven't even had a chance to look over it.
Okay, Mr. Lyons, do you want to further explain
Look over that.
maybe a little bit?
The state legislature in Columbus and the governor signed an ordinance allowing people to purchase and retain consumer grade fireworks in the state of Ohio. Under state law, the right to use those in a community on certain days, including, I think it starts on July 4th. In that provision, they allow that particular statute that was passed by the state so that we can retain our own codified ordinances for use of consumer grade fireworks in the city of Minnetonka Lake. Kevin Bittner, who has a lot of experience, in the fire area, reviewed our current ordinance in conjunction with passage of this House Bill 172. He made some recommendations to make it crystal clear that despite the passage of this new law, consumer grade fireworks cannot be used in the city of Minnetonka Lake. This does not affect. That's the only change. So and the fire chief is recommending that this doesn't happen. I think the fire chief, this would cause ultimately injury to some or many people. That's the way people it is, especially in smaller confined areas. That's what this is.
Does this only refer to private citizens or does it refer to the city and everybody else?
This is only for consumer grade fireworks, such as those things are fine, which I think under federal law, good luck reading federal law, but it's 1.4, is what the designation is. And I don't know, where it splits into the M80s and whether that's a 1.3. Okay, but typical.
M80s, excuse me, sir, is an explosive. It's not a firework.
Oh, okay, but in terms of having fireworks displayed by a trained person who has a permit, this does not affect it in terms of.
Correct. This will only be
This is
for,
only consumer grade. Those aren't consumer grade that you see down at Edgewater or at Kenner. Sometimes at the Indians games that they, excuse me, at the Guardians games that they get all on.
So would a private citizen such as myself be allowed to get a permit to hire a professional to come in and have fireworks?
I don't know. Off the top of my head.
Who would know?
You could make an application and then we'll read through the 12
No,
pages.
I don't want vagueness.
Mr. Moore,
You're passing an ordinance here, and I want to know if you're restricting my ability.
Yes, sir. The Ohio Fire Code actually states what you need as requirements to have a professional exhibitor set off fireworks. And there is a, unless Mr. Bittner can correct me on this, it used to be 75 foot per inch for a safety zone, correct?
yes, there's
So
nowhere.
you need to have a lot of space to be able to set off any of those fireworks.
I don't believe there's any space in the city
Yeah.
that would even be.
So you personally really can't set off anything that's gonna go up and go kaboom or sparkle in the air.
Can the city of Mentor, would the city of Mentor on the Lake be able to do that?
Yes, well, the yacht club does it every year.
Are they in Mentor on the Lake?
Yes,
Yes,
their Harbor Yacht Club is different, because I was down there for 22 years.
Yes, they have the distance to be able to do that. They apply for a permit, it goes through the state.
I realize this is all about Michael King,
Yeah.
and that's fine, because as a neighbor, we have some concerns. Things being totally in control.
Well, this has nothing to do with anybody personally. This is the state.
Oh, come
As,
on.
no,
it doesn't.
No,
Sir, Michael, this never would have come up.
no, not true. As,
I don't even know.
as of July 1st, the governor signed that fireworks are legal in the state of Ohio.
I understand.
It has nothing to do with personal.
Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons, I got a quick question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to start it.
It startled all me.
Well, let me continue this. The current ordinance that we're looking at passing, would it prohibit the sales of fireworks in our city? Can we do that?
The opt-out provision is merely for purchasing. Right now, if a person wants to legally purchase fireworks in the state of Ohio, they can purchase it, but then within 48 hours, they have to take it out of the state.
Yes.
So people are allowed to sell fireworks in the city of Mentor on the Lake right now. I don't believe that our ordinance, which mirrors the state statute, prohibits the sale of fireworks, provided that they take it right out of state. Now, this ordinance as amended, if it is amended, would not prohibit somebody from buying it in Mentor on the Lake and having consumer grade fireworks in their possession, that they could then go to one of the townships, okay, and shoot off.
I know under the current fire code, before it gets changed, the only thing the state fire marshal would permit is anything that isn't self-propelled pretty much. Am I right, Mr. Bittner?
Yes.
So if it goes up, goes pop, it can't be sold.
Oh, well,
Or it can't be discharged here.
Discharge.
or
Yeah.
district, not so.
Right. This,
But you have to
this
have,
prohibits.
you
things
have
from
to
being
have a
discharged.
permit to sell them.
As of July 1st, for the 1.4, these places that are going to want to sell them are going to have to go to the state.
You get
They
a
have
permit.
to get the permits, so it's all in the state
Okay,
done. So to say that we as individuals can prohibit it, I don't know. We have to look into that more,
that's what I'm asking.
but it's going to be definitely a.
To keep it at the way it is now. Not more
To keep it the way it is now is not a Mentor on the Lake law. To keep it the way it is now, according to you, which I believe,
No, I'm
is a state fire marshal.
I'm suggesting keeping it the way it is now for the state fire marshal. That we incorporate it into our city ordinance.
You know, that's, we're a home rule city, we have a charter, we could probably do that. We can go, I mean, this was a specific opt-out that was allowed in the law. If somebody wanted to challenge that, saying that this, when you could go against what the general state law is a matter that it's litigated in the courts all the time. You may lose, but probably a fireworks sale place is not gonna move here because it's not a convenient crossroads where they can get enough people to buy it. But if we want to prohibit the sale, we could probably.
Can I simplify this conversation real quick? Men are on the lake, adopt Ohio Fire Code safety. I'm sure you do. Most all cities do. And the thing is, the state is saying, yeah, you can shoot off fireworks in the state. You have to opt out. You have to rewrite that part of the fireworks subject matter to say in men are on the lake, we're not allowing fireworks to be.
That's what this ordinance is.
That's what this ordinance is.
Right, so you don't want to leave like what the state said, because then you'll wind up shoot off fireworks.
That's
Men are on the lake.
what I was, yes. All right.
And there are two classes of fireworks, one for commercial, one for residential.
All right, so what's that?
We got a motion to amend.
We have a motion by Mr. Lunder to amend, to add in the language that Mr. Lyons had proposed, that you cannot discharge fireworks in the city of Monroe Lake. We have a second by Mr. Shu to amend it. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Okay, so this is not second reading. Is there any other motion? Hearing none, this is going to go to third reading. All right, ordinance number 2022 0-05, second reading. Currently, it is referred to the zoning committee. Reread it by its title.
ordinance number 2022-0-05, second reading, referred to zoning committee. An ordinance creating chapter 1255, lakefront plan unit development, PUD, district of the codified ordinances.
Are there any motions on this one? So my suggestion is, and I know Mr. Johnson did not, but in light of the overwhelming response, I think we should refer this back to. What's that?
Is it with the
Or it is with zoning, we're gonna go to the zoning committee. But in order to do that, it's still in zoning, we have to take it out, or we leave it in zoning to go back to them.
You could just.
It's
We're not voting on it, it's still referred to.
Right, to stay on second, or would it go to third? Because it stays on,
It stays on the second.
stays on second. Any other suggestions from the council?
I think it's, let the zoning committee do what it's got to do. Leave it on second until it comes out of committee.
Okay.
Is it too late for the Dollar General? Has that been decided?
So. let me speak on that.
There's nothing been decided on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not that.
Like, it's just a thought that they've come to us. I mean, it's not even like, there's nothing to vote on.
Okay, great.
So we're gonna leave this in zoning. Stay on second. So then we're gonna go to ordinance number 2022 0-06. Read by its title.
Ordinance number 2022-0-06, an ordinance to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances, to provide for the adoption of new matter in the updated and revised codified ordinances, repealing ordinances and resolutions in conflict therewith, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to suspend on this.
Okay.
So what
So
this
wait,
is.
hold on one second. We have a motion to suspend by Ms. Moore. Seconded by Mr. Shaboo. Open for discussion.
So what this is our codified ordinances. And every year,
This is,
when we pass everything, it doesn't automatically go into the book. So what you read online is anything that was approved up until December 31st of 2020. By approving this, this gives approval to go ahead and make all those updates so that anything passed in 2021 will now be in this book and added to the online book, and everything will be updated appropriately with what passed last year.
Transparency.
All right, so we have a motion and it's seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
aye.
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
All right, so
Motion for passage.
So made.
motion made by Mr. Lunder, seconded by Mr. Morris. Roll call.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
All right, that ordinance passes. All right, we're gonna move on to old business. Under old business, we have adoption of council rules. Council members have any questions, corrections? Mr. Johnson said that he was okay with passing them now. Corrections that were made. Mr. Morris had a question that we can address. About the co-chairs of the committees, which I will bring up to him. If that was a council rule change or if it's just something we can have. So I don't know if you guys want to wait on that, table it until we figure that out, or go ahead and pass it. We can still adopt that later if it would be. So, what's that?
That's Mr. Lyons.
Mr. Lyons.
Don't jump again.
So after a recent meeting, the president and myself decided we wanted a chair and co-chair of each committee. In the event that the chair were not to be there, the committee could still be held by the co-chair.
I think it would be better to call it vice.
Vice, okay.
I mean, because you have co-chairs. It's one of those.
He did say vice.
He did say vice.
It was.
Yeah, but you can add the vice chairman. You don't have, you can do that by motion at the time of the committee, or you can enshrine it in the council.
Which would be best.
Probably better to put it in the council. And if something's not written down, people wonder how you get that power or authority. Sure.
I would recommend we wait. and Add that to the council. It's only one more meeting. So we can do that.
Sure.
Already at the April.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna hold off on that until possibly get that added into the rules. New business. We have a expenditure approval. Travelers insurance. Any motion?
I move we approve the expenditures.
Motion made by Mr. Morris.
Second.
By Mr. Lunder for approval of the expenditure. Roll call.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore, aye. Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Expenditure passes. All right, at this point, we're gonna go ahead and open it back up to the public.
Just when it was getting boring.
Mr. Mayor,
I do have new business.
I apologize.
That's okay. During the last ordinance committee meeting, the decision was made by the committee to leave the public right of way ordinance the same. And my question either to the ordinance committee or all the council is, how am I enforcing the public right of way based on council's interpretation today? And why do I ask that question is because I don't know from the last ordinance committee meeting, the impression I got was we don't care what's in the public right of way. And the current ordinance states differently. I would ask council then, either during the ordinance committee or at some other time, the next council meeting, to let me know how I can enforce this ordinance.
Vice President, I suggest we send it back to our ordinance.
I was just gonna say, so I think in light of this information, two conflicting, we're gonna send this back to the ordinance committee to revisit the right of way. I know it's not on there anymore because you guys took it off. So you guys can set that meeting. Anything else? New business.
That's all I.
Now, we're gonna open this portion up to the public at 8:23. You want to speak again, go ahead, step up.
When do you want us back to read the stuff, everything that we're talking about today?
When we, we're gonna,
We'll be back.
we're gonna set the meetings
Okay.
in a moment. I'll let you know.
Will we be able to have access to some of these records before the next meeting? So when it comes up with the next zoning and what we're gonna do, and if there's a new proposal put out, and how we're gonna rezone the PUD, that we can all review and study so that we can have really good questions to make sure it's something that we can all live with?
Sure, we should be able to make the,
Possible?
well, technically, we didn't adopt. I think because it's still in committee.
Right.
So, David Scarnati, Salida, I would suggest that zoning holds public meetings, just like this, is the public available to attend zoning meetings.
All of our meetings are open to the public. Every
So
meeting
I would
is.
suggest if you guys want to be part of how this PUD is written, then you would attend the next zoning meeting. So look on your calendars and find out when that is.
And the home phone number is 555.
All right, so at this point, anybody else?
Is that
Well, I-
zoning meeting already been scheduled?
Not yet.
No date?
Momentarily. That's down. It's gonna be signed in a few moments.
Scott Will from 7573 Salina Road. So thank you very much again for allowing us to have a forum to discuss these things openly. So one of the things that was brought up in terms of the fireworks comments, which I think is a good one. So I'm a surgeon at University Hospitals. I'm the former president of the Ohio chapter of the American College of Surgeons. When the fireworks bill went into proposition a couple of years ago, the Ohio State Medical Association asked for backing from the Ohio State Hospital Association, the Ohio American College of Surgeons, and other organizations within the state looking at the trauma patterns that happen with fireworks use. And so when it went back to the state, the recommendation from all the healthcare boards was not to allow the change in the law to allow not only the purchase of fireworks within the state, with the exception of transport out within 48 hours, but not to allow detonation of commercial grade fireworks. And that was the recommendation of all the healthcare professional societies as a group. But one of the concessions that they made to us back was the concept of allowing individual cities and townships in order to make their own determinations. So one of the other concepts I think that people have brought up a lot with the housing scenario that we have here is from traffic patterns. Obviously, we have a school that's on Salida Road. There's a lot of children that walk. There's a lot of people that walk in the neighborhood as well. And I think one of the other things that traffic monitoring can go into, in which the Ohio Commission on Trauma oftentimes looks at, is traffic patterns in relation to pedestrian struck accidents. I think we're all well aware of, a very recent example of a traffic accident for an Ohio State quarterback. Granted, that's on a state highway. We don't know what he was doing there at 6:30 in the morning, but pedestrian struck is a very common traumatic event that happens many times. So I think one of the things that needs to go into traffic assessment is also the potential impact for accidents that could happen within the neighborhood, especially for children and pedestrians in the area. So just bring that up as a physician and as a concerned citizen. We've now been in Manor Lake for 7 years. We're very, very happy to be here. We love the neighborhood. We're very happy with the people that are here. Just want to see the best for the community, make it safe and proper. Thank you.
name is Stan Kowalski, 7589 Salida Road. And in regards to your action on the fireworks bill, I think it's very appropriate. I love fireworks properly displayed and with safety included. Certainly is a bonus. But as I found out last year, give a person an inch, they'll take a mile. And to wake up in the morning and look out my front window and see a bunch of ATF officers, police, and the state fire marshals represented there in my front yard. First thing I thought was, what did my wife do now? And it was kind of sobering to see what was taken out of the garage. It wasn't always occupied. It was a potential bomb. And it was very close to my house, my neighbor's house, Dr. Scott. And as I pointed that out to my neighbor, it was very irresponsible of us to do something like that. So I do like fireworks, not a bottle rocket going out of a beer bottle. Well, that's, those days are gone. Everything's mortars, and big flares, etc. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody online? All right, hearing none, we'll close this portion, open to the public at 8:29. All right, announcements and settings of meetings. So we're gonna hold the public hearing, but now that this isn't stayed in committee, we stays on second, correct? So we're not going to set the public portion. So.
He's thinking.
Well,
You set the public hearing or.
for the PUD, yes, because it really wasn't adopted, so how can we set it if it's not?
Well, we have to get 30 days notice from the paper.
Mhm.
To do that. We can still set the public hearing on this. You can always cancel.
Well, my concern is we haven't amended it to,
It doesn't matter.
does not at this point.
You want to set it for May 10th?
Yeah.
Is that 30 days? Is that enough? That's not
Well, I
enough.
guess May 10th would be.
That's not
No,
enough.
we were gonna set
30 days, but
The public hearing would have been the next council meeting. Next council.
But if we,
Which is
not 30 days.
that's not 30 days.
No, you're right.
And the 10th is not, so we have to go to the 24th,
Second meeting of
the 24th.
May.
Are you talking about zoning?
No. This
No,
is
no, no.
public.
It's going back to committee though.
That's my concern.
Once it's introduced to council, council has the right to set a public hearing. Even though it's being. And people can take comment at the committee meeting, the planning code. People can speak at it at the meeting between now and the public hearing. They can speak at the public hearing. And, normally, the meeting where you have the public hearing is the meeting where it is voted.
So I'm gonna suggest we go ahead and set the public meeting. Doesn't mean it has to be voted, like you said, we couldn't get rid of it, but at least we'll have it. So therefore, when we do decide on what we are going to do, one way or another.
To better understand.
What's
and
that?
Changes, so would having, the purpose of having the public hearing, is that basically another chance for us to, like, if we read more, of course, raise some concerns, or what would be the purpose if it's going?
They're saying they're gonna vote on it right after the public hearing. And I don't think
They said it could,
they could, and they would.
but, well, that's why I want to find out what's the purpose.
I mean, how many zoning, what is the zoning meeting gonna be?
We haven't
set that.
Correct. So that we're gonna have a zoning meeting before the public hearing. So there's nothing that's presented to council yet. So they're going to review it, make the recommendations. Hopefully you're all gonna show up to that meeting, make your suggestions, your thoughts. And then at that point, when we can move forward, so you still have to have the 30 days. But it has to be advertised.
So the zoning committee
does their thing.
Yes.
They present their recommendation to the council,
Correct.
and that's just kind of behind closed doors.
No, it's open. Okay. Everything's open.
Public meeting.
Okay,
So that's another option.
so the zoning committee does their thing, they present it to the council.
Correct.
Which would be the next council meeting at sometime in the.
If we take it out of committee, if it's still in committee like it is today, and
And then the council would have 30-day or whatever, then it goes to that 30-day notice, or is that the next time afterwards?
At some point in time, council has to set a hearing before the council meeting, so that the community at large, you know, notified through the statutory process. That's in the revised code, which is the
I'm just trying to figure out what the precedent is from a timetable. I mean, that's gonna be June 1st, or that's gonna
Well, I
be
think
July
we said
30th.
that the first chance that council would have to set it for a public hearing, you get 30 days notice.
May 24th.
Would be May 24th. So there would be, but you can say anything you want at the zoning committee or the intervening council meeting, and it can't be in terms of trying to convince council of your position.
So I would suggest the zoning committee meeting as board of council.
so we are gonna set the public hearing for this for May 24th. All right, now the other meetings, which you guys are really interested in. Yeah.
How about April 20th at 6 P.M.?
What?
April 20, Wednesday, next week, Wednesday, 6 P.M.
Who's on that? That's Mr.
Desiree and Jim and I.
Okay,
I would say 7 o'clock.
yes, do 7 because it does.
7 o'clock,
So April what?
20th.
April 20th, 7.
I don't want to put this on.
That's zoning, right?
Yes.
Yep. All right, any other?
Michelle, ordinance committee, why don't we set that up?
Yeah.
You have a date in mind?
We're on the 12th here. What day of the word, what day of the week? Works for you?
They're all fun, usually. I'm not the 18th though.
That could be in this
Not the
room.
18th?
Yeah.
Zoning meeting right
Pardon?
here.
Not the 18th.
Not the 18th.
Um,
And I think Desiree said usually Thursdays are better for her.
Thursday the 24th is bad for me. I could do.
How about the 28th?
Or Wednesday of that week, the 28th.
All right, the 28th at 7 PM.
We really want to shot at the last council meeting.
Yeah, I don't see it with that next council meeting with that.
Okay, so we'll do the 28th at 7.
Yes,
What is that?
Is Thursday better for Desiree?
I think that's what she said.
I'll let her know.
But it's
And then if there's
Wednesday.
any problems, we could always readjust it.
Yeah, because there's no council meeting, yeah.
We'll update you of all the meetings in one moment.
That's kind of what my thought was, Michelle.
Yeah, that works.
All right, so that's ordinance. Who else?
There's no Parks and Rec meeting.
Right, no planning, our Parks and Rec's canceled.
Yes.
No planning and zoning.
There's a
state.
board of BZA.
BZA is on.
May 2nd, I think, is their next meeting.
No,
BZA is, not BZA, but planning and zoning.
BZA is from.
The 18th. That's Monday.
Okay.
I said at 6 o'clock, sir.
Yes. All right, so far we have Board of Zoning Appeals is on the 18th at 6. Zoning will be April 20th at 7, right here in this room.
What was the first one you said?
Board of Zoning Appeals
It doesn't have anything to do.
doesn't deal with this one. You're more than welcome to come now. And then also we have the ordinance on April 28th at 7. Any other meetings? No?
You want to put down
The zoning? Yeah. Yeah.
Was the public hearing adjusted from the May 24th?
No, the public hearing is set for May 24th. If it needs to be changed, we always can do that.
See what's when.
There is no P and Z scheduled. All right, before we take a motion for adjournment, first off, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and expressing your concerns. The mayor did say he would like to stick around and talk to you if you have any other questions. We also will be here for a few to talk if you have any other questions for us. At this time, I will take a motion for, I apologize, this regular agenda meeting will be Thursday, April 21st at 6. And the next regular meeting of council will be April 26th at 7.
If council wants to stick around, I would suggest that at least 2 of you leave. So it's not considered a meeting. Because if you have 5 of you there, it could be considered a public meeting where we take minutes. So, no sense in. So it's probably, you know, it's a possible.
All right.
Motion for adjournment.
So motion for adjournment by Mr. Morrison.
Second by Mr. Schmidt. Well, man, turn up on the stage.
Mr. Mayor.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore. Aye. Mr. Sherwood.
Aye.
Mr. Morris.
Aye.
All right.